The ebb and flow of the month continues with another light week. I found the weekly television unremarkable, and there weren't any major shows on my radar either. What we did get was a show and a tour that were just different enough to keep things fresh. The annual CMLL and New Japan tour took place, while Team Noah debuted their Limit Break series. With the amount of wrestling I consume for this channel, I appreciate getting these types of shows that are off-kilter enough to feel fresh but don't necessarily have the highest stakes either. It's a nice change of pace, especially with how the next few weeks are shaping up. Before we get into it, keep in mind that I haven't seen every single match to have taken place, and the ones I do choose to talk about are all based on my personal enjoyment and nothing else. A slight spoiler warning, as I will be talking about match finishes here too. After watching 52 matches spanning 10 promotions, here are a few of my favorites from the third week of February. We're starting this week by trying something a little bit different. Instead of breaking down a single match from Limit Break, I'm going to run down my main takeaways from the show itself. Limit Break is a new series of shows run by Go Shiozaki and his new unit Team Noah, giving a stage for a lot of older wrestlers to shine. There's a joke in here somewhere about Noah booking old guys, though this is done in a much more isolated sense. Everyone they brought in for the show are in their late 40s and 50s, and they put together a pleasantly varied and fairly quick watch. Shuji Ishikawa vs Yu Owada was a solid veteran versus rookie match, where Owada had to really earn everything. Ishikawa was predictably dominant for the first half of the match, but was very generous as Owada began to fight back. I think this was a nice way to set up Owada, as he is integrated with the rest of the roster in the upcoming tag league. Sakuraba and Sekimoto was the most intriguing matchup on paper. It left a bit to be desired due to the stipulation and time limit draw, but seeing these two clash and riff on the mat was very cool. Masato Tanaka vs Mohamed Yone was not on my radar heading into this, but it actually kicked ass. The semi-main acted as the de facto slugfest. I thought Fujita and Makabe had great chemistry, and 58-year-old Akitoshi Saito did a good job of maintaining that stubborn meathead energy throughout. And as for the main event, I enjoyed a great deal of it, even if the 30-minute draw holds it back. Shiozaki and Nagata are awesome together, and I think it was a great choice to make the match revolve around Atsushi Kotoge, who on paper seems like the odd man out. By making his struggle with Jun Akiyama the narrative of the match, it ties him in nicely. By the end of the match, Korakuen was chanting for Kotoge, which could be a turning point for him in this new faction. Limit Break won't be a show that'll get shouts for year-end awards, but it's a really easy watch that I had a good time with. If you skipped out on this and have some free time, I think you can find something here that'll appeal to your taste. I look forward to seeing where the Limit Break series goes from here. Staying under the Wrestle Universe umbrella, we had the Ganjo's Emerald Dragon event that aired on the 15th. Ganbare is not a company I follow closely, though a Mio Momono singles match is worth going out of the way for. Mio has a reputation for being a fiery underdog, though here she spends the majority of the match in control. Her opponent YuuRI has been on the rise for the last year or so, and has her work cut out for her here against Momono. Mio establishes her dominance early by utilizing some heelish tactics. She's at a clear size disadvantage and has to work around it. She does so primarily by basing a lot of her offense around YuuRI's hair. A lot of this isn't just hair pulling for the sake of being underhanded, as many times Mio uses the hair as leverage for a hold, and at one point uses the hair to set up YuuRI in the ropes to set up a drive-by. YuuRI is able to pull off an Escalera dropkick to give her an opportunity to get back into the match. She makes good on that through her kicks, which sound great. There's little to no slapping here, it's all kick pad. Mio counters by bringing things to the ground, but eventually this falls apart into a brawl. Like Saori, Momono seems to know just where to land her forearm strikes, as they make a sickening thud that resonates through this small room in Tokyo. These striking exchanges draw out the fire in YuuRI, though she gets the worst of it, having to adapt on the fly to swing the momentum yet again. Her kicks and a mid-air sleeper give her a legitimate shot at pulling off the upset, though Mio's experience and ring awareness catch YuuRI going to the top rope one too many times. This brings us to the finishing stretch. The majority is spent trading and countering pin attempts rather than just throwing bombs, which I thought was cool. Both women are unable to execute a successful bridge, which brings them to blows one more time. Mio withstands one last flurry of strikes and fittingly wins the match with a bridging German suplex. This was a fun little match that shows Mio's range as the favorite and shows the potential in someone like YuuRI. Matches like these prove why it can pay off to scour through cards and cage match listings, as one name standing out can introduce you to a new wrestler or promotion that you haven't given a chance before. These two will be facing each other again in tag action in March, and I'll be sure to see if they pick up where they left off here. The finale of Fantastica Mania will be covered next week, so for this episode, the highlight was the singles match between Soberano Jr. and Templario from the 6th night of the tour. This had significant amount of hype around it, and I was eager to check it out, as admittedly, I haven't watched Templario since last year's tour, though Soberano Jr. was just in New Japan over the winter during World Tag League. I've had a lot of fun with this year's tour. The little things like the horns in the crowd, the Spanish ring announcer, and a lot of the CMLL wrestlers color coordinating their matches aid in making the shows feel different, yet familiar enough. Soberano Jr. and Templario are both dressed in white here, and while I'm ignorant to any significance of that, it's never a bad look. My immediate takeaway from the early going is how effortless these two make all of the flashy offense look. Unlike the junior heavyweights in New Japan, or even wrestlers you'd see on American TV, it doesn't feel like they're prioritizing how many rotations or how fast they're executing these moves. Everything is so crisp and fluid, and these guys just make it look easy. This wasn't just a showcase of dazzling moves though. It was soon made apparent that these two would go to drastic lengths to hurt one another. Things take a nasty turn as Templario transitions a tope into a mid-air arm drag, hurling Soberano Jr. into the announce table. From here, the two begin to tee off while standing on the apron, and Soberano hits a gross inverted tombstone, essentially bouncing Templario headfirst into the floor. It's a scary bump that requires some time to make sure Templario is okay, and in that meantime, Soberano Jr. just boots one of the young lions at ringside, which makes for a hilarious diversion. Thankfully, Templario was able to continue. He hit Soberano Jr. with a lung blower for his troubles, and the match doesn't let up from there. The constant exchanges of violence never compromise their abilities or timing. The more elaborate stuff is worked around at a snappy pace and never feels too contrived. This aspect is worked into the match at one point, as Soberano Jr. takes way too long to hit a moonsault with his opponent in the ropes, and he pays for it. When he does successfully hit the move, it's set up in a much more incidental way, which benefits the entire sequence. I appreciate that level of care, and it's not something seen in a lot of promotions these days. Things get more aggressive as the two are becoming more desperate to put each other away. Strikes turn to headbutts, and the head drops become more and more creative. It's another case where there's no point in reciting all the bombs, it's best to just go and see it for yourself. Templario is put away, as back-to-back Soberano drivers are too much to withstand. In simplest terms, this rocked. These two do a bunch of cool stuff that all looks incredibly painful, making the 19-minute runtime fly by. Sometimes that's all you need, and I think this is a great crash course as to what these two have to offer. And before I go, here are a few honorable mentions. I thought Dynamite on the 14th was bookended with some decent matches. Jon Moxley and Dax Harwood had a solid opener that I wasn't as high on as others, but that may have just been a me problem. And the Orange Cassidy Matt Taven main event ended up winning me over. I was very confused by the stipulation at first, though it ended up being a ton of fun with a lot of crazy bumps. Wing Gory vs Mai Sakurai and Chan Yota from Stardom February 17th. Saya Ida was awesome in this match. I didn't think all of the components made up for a full recommendation, but Ida, and specifically her exchanges with Chan Yota, were great. I hope this new regime is paying attention to what she's capable of. And last but not least, Mio Momono and Takumi Iroha vs Trish Adora and Queen Aminata from West Coast Pro February 18th. Some further viewing for Mio Momono as well as Queen Aminata, who has been regularly featured on AEW as of late. Aminata and Adora are strong in control here, specifically when punishing Mio, who is great when fighting from underneath. She makes a solid pairing with Iroha as well. And that is it from me. If you got this far into the video, thank you so much for your time and for hearing what I have to say. Let me know if you enjoy the brief show rundown format and if you'd like to see that every once in a while. Considering things are about to really pick up over the next couple of weeks, it's something I might try from time to time. Be sure to do all of the obligatory YouTube stuff by liking and subscribing, and find me on Twitter or Blue Sky at OuterStevan. Let me know if I missed anything worth checking out, and I'll talk to you again next week.